So, how is one to achieve moksha? Obviously, not through pursuing the paths of desire and success, right? Those aren't the ultimate desires. What are the paths that we should take? Well, they're the paths of duty, karma, and the pursuit of moksha. Those are the paths we want to take. That's the reality we're seeking. Those are the two paths that we want: duty and moksha, or karma and moksha. How do we achieve those paths? How do we get there? Um, how do we reach that liberation from birth, death, and rebirth? Well, the Bhagavad Gita offers a description of what most Hindus believe has always been a core part of Hinduism. The four yogas. They're Jnana Yoga, having to do with knowledge; Bhakti Yoga, having to do with love; Karma Yoga, having to do with work or duty; and Raja Yoga is a psychological, psychosomatic path, psychosomatic practice, I should say. So yoga is a word related to the word yoke. It has a double meaning. It means to unite and to discipline. And this has to do with the training designed to lead to integration. Integration being union with the ultimate reality, right? The achieving of the removing ourselves from ourselves, that jiva, that temporal soul that goes through lives, deaths, rebirths, attached to karma, bound up in karma, unable to escape. How do we rid ourselves of that? We unite our true self, the Atman, with the Brahman. We are integrated. And how are we integrated? Well, we have to be yoked. And this image is, you train one oxen to pull a plow by yoking a younger, smaller one, to an older, trained, stronger one. And so there's this sense of the yoga master and disciple, that uniting in discipline, that double meaning, right? If you've read the Upanishad, which you should, when you do, you'll see Nachiketas, this disciple who is yoking himself to death as a master to teach him how to overcome death, in a sense. So this is the process. This is how we see the process of escape. So karma yoga, what is that? It has to do with duty. It has to do with our works, and it has to do with your caste, especially. And that's why the caste system is so important to so many people's understandings of how you can live as a Hindu. Now, we'll look at reform movements later, and some have rejected caste, and we'll talk about why. But if you look in the Bhagavad Gita, we see serenity, self-restraint, austerity, purity, forgiveness, as well as uprightness, knowledge, wisdom, and faith in God. These constitute the duty of a spiritual teacher. That's that priestly caste, the Brahmin caste, right? Valor, glory, firmness, skill, generosity, steadiness in battle, and the ability to rule. These constitute the duty of a soldier. They flow from his own nature. That nature thing is important, right? So that's part of, you're born into a nature and you must live that out. That's how you cooperate with Dharma. That's how you achieve following karma, your duty, to achieve moksha. You must do it from within your caste system. Agriculture, protection of the cow, and trade are the duty of a trader, again in accordance with his nature. So the merchant caste, that third caste, is merchants and kind of clerical people. These that's in your nature. You do that. Then there's the duty of a servant is to serve, and that agrees with his nature. Perfection is attained when each attends diligently to his duty. Listen, and I will tell you how it is attained: by him who always minds his own duty. That's going to be key for Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Minding your own duty, doing what you're supposed to do. Don't take it upon yourself to do someone else's duty. Do the one that's fit for you and that you are fit for. You do the duty as prescribed, for action for duty's sake is superior to inaction. Therefore do your duty perfectly without care for the results. For he who does it disinterestedly attains the supreme. In other words, you're not interested in reward. It's better to die doing one's duty than to do another's duty, even if you do it efficiently. In other words, if doing what you're born into is in your caste, even if it kills you, it's better to keep doing that and die than to do somebody else's, even if you're good at it. He who acts because it is his duty, not thinking of the consequences, is really spiritual and a true ascetic. Think about the passage in the Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna doesn't want to kill his former friends and his family members on the other side, on the opposing army. And Krishna says, killing doesn't matter, being killed doesn't matter, that's what you do. You're a soldier. You're a ruler. That's your duty. Do it. Death and life, they don't matter. They're not real. Death is not real. Killing is not real. Dying is not real. That's unimportant. Your action is what matters. Your action of fulfilling your duty. And this action is a sacrifice, which is pure when it's offered by one who doesn't want the fruit of it. When it's done according to the commands of Scripture and with implicit faith that the sacrifice is duty. In other words, don't think about what you might get for it. You're not guaranteed to get anything. That's not what matters. What matters is that you do it. Okay, so that's the first one, that karma yoga, that duty, that following according to your caste. Bhakti yoga is a devotional yoga. It has to do with love for the gods or God. So Lord Sri Krishna replied, those who keep their minds fixed on me, who worship me always in unwavering faith and concentration, these are the very best. Those who worship me as indestructible, the undefinable, the omnipresent, the unthinkable, the primeval, the immutable, and the eternal, subduing their senses, viewing all conditions of life with the same eye, and working for the welfare of all beings, assuredly they come to me. So this is devotion to Vishnu, the preserver of Dharma, devotion to the ultimate reality, Brahma, within and expressed through Vishnu, the preserver. That kind of devoted worship is another path. Raja Yoga. This Raja literally means king, or Raj does. This has to do with control. It's a psychological or psychosomatic process. This is what most people think of when they think of yoga. It's these exercises in these various positions, right, where your body takes, or your mind is in complete control of your body. There's no distraction. It's total self-control of the physical being by the intellect. So when a man dwells on the objects of sense, he creates an attraction for them. Attraction develops into desire, and desire breeds anger. Anger induces delusion. Delusion, loss of memory. Through loss of memory, reason is shattered, and the loss of reason leads to destruction. But the self-controlled soul who moves amongst sense objects, free from either attachment or repulsion, he wins eternal peace. Having attained peace, he becomes free from misery. For when the mind gains peace, right discrimination follows. Right discrimination is not for him who cannot concentrate. Without concentration, there cannot be meditation. Who cannot meditate must not expect peace, and without peace, how can anyone expect happiness? As a ship at sea is tossed by a tempest, so the reason is carried away by the mind when preyed upon by the straying senses. In other words, your complete control by your mind over your body, so as not to be distracted in any way, is a path to achieving separation from the jiva and unity with your Atman, bringing the Atman into unity with the Brahman. This is, you'll see I've seen a video of a yogi who can literally breathe out of one nostril, in through one nostril and out through the other, without, you may have seen that in a meditation practice where people use their thumb and they'll close their right nostril and breathe in their left, and then close their left nostril and breathe out their right, pinching off the nostril with their finger. But this yogi had such bodily control that he could actually, he would, in a sense, perform for people, as odd as that may seem. he would breathe in one nostril without using his hands and breathe out the other, and people could like get right up next to him and attest to the direction of the air moving through nostrils. It's not just for show for these practitioners of this type of yoga. It's meant to be a practice that gives them total control over their bodies by the use of their mind. So at the same time, there's a balancing aspect to this. Those who practice austerities not commanded by Scripture, who are slaves to hypocrisy and egotism, who are carried away by the fury of desire and passion, they are ignorant. They torment the organs of the body, and they harass me also who lives within. Know that they are devoted to evil. Some have thought that this may be in one of those kind of devotional responses to Buddhism, because Buddhism claims to be the middle path, and the Buddha was very critical of those who would like abuse their physical bodies in order to achieve separation. And so, and here we see Krishna or Vishnu, the god, saying, yes, control of the body, total control of the body by the mind, but that doesn't mean the abuse of the body. So this means austerity is not commanded by Scripture. In other words, like beating yourself or sticking yourself with pins or walking across fire. These are excess. These are not things suggested by the Scriptures. They're rooted in egotism and hypocrisy. You should do right. It's the idea of rightful meditation, rightful self-control of the mind over the body is the goal. The final one is Jnana Yoga, which has to do with knowledge. And this is just simply knowledge like, hey, I know a bunch of facts. Facts, like scientific facts or historical facts, that would be in the realm of the senses, the kind of sensory experience. For this tradition, knowledge has to do with true knowledge, the total and absolute apprehension of the true self, of the capital S self. Knowledge like a seeing it right in front of you. So it's trying to move from a knowing about ideas, about the ultimate, to in a sense having a direct confrontation, a direct apprehension, grabbing hold of and being grabbed hold of by the ultimate reality. The inhabitants, this is from the Bhagavad Gita again, the inhabitants of the world misled by those natures which the qualities have engendered. Qualities have to do with like physical things and sensory experiences. Know not that I am higher than them all, and that I do not change. Verily, this divine illusion of phenomenon manifests itself in the qualities is difficult to surmount. Only they who devote themselves to me and to me alone can accomplish it. The sinner, the ignorant, the vile, deprived of spiritual perception by the glamour of illusion, and he who pursues a godless life, none of them shall find me. There's a tension in the Bhagavad Gita between this sort of devotion, the bhakti, the pursuit of the personal God, who know me, the preserver, the God, who love me, who are devoted to me. That devotion is one type of knowledge of the God. But this jnana practice is rooted in another idea of to see qualities, even qualities like the omnipresent and all those, anything that would relate to sensory experience as being less than the full truth of the divine. That's why it calls it a divine illusion. The qualities can be a divine illusion. You can have ideas about God that distract you from actually confronting God. And so Jnana Yoga is about this desire for an absolute, unmediated confrontation with the ultimate reality, which is to be achieved through a sort of meditation that separates the person from the sum total of sensory life. Here again we have from the Bhagavad Gita, he who experiences the unity of life sees his own self in all beings and all beings in his own self. Looks at everything with an impartial eye. This is the idea of everything is in the ultimate reality. That realization, that apprehension is what goes beyond knowledge as we think of knowledge to a direct knowledge. So in some essence, one of the things that's going to lead to some of our reform movements is the understanding in the Hinduism is that there's this process of life, these stages of life. And you start as a student for a Hindu man. This is the stages of a man's life. That literally means man. Moves from student to householder, which he marries and has children, to forest dweller, which is retirement, to finally become a renunciant, where he gives up everything to pursue the ultimate. And that last one is kind of a optional, but it literally goes away from his family for good. The sannyasin, to try to find absolute connection to the ultimate. It's the pursuit of this total kind of self-controlled reality, and this leads to moksha. And part of the difficulty that we're going to see is that for the Hindu, for certain interpretations, to achieve this kind of self-control, one must be a man in one of those last two stages of life, belonging to one of the upper three castes. So a Dalit, a servant, a woman, a young boy, none of these can achieve moksha. If you die having been a Dalit, a servant, a young boy, a woman, at any age, at any stage, from any caste, you will not achieve moksha. You have to come around for another life. That's the interpretation of many. So keep that in mind, and that's going to be important for understanding the reform movements when we get to them.